Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the Main Street Cinema, the show where we discuss the finer points of filmmaking. And welcome to a long overdue spoiler cast for War for the Planet of the Apes, the third installment of the Planet of the Apes reboot franchise. I believe this is number 8 or number 9 in the Planet of the Apes series overall. I don't know. I haven't seen most of the Planet of the Apes movies.
Assuming there's 5 original movies, then it would be 8, yes.
Okay.
I think 8 and 9's it's in the right vicinity. It's about right.
And then there's the Tim Burton thing that nobody wants to talk about.
That doesn't really count. Going as a one-off. That's like a
no. That counts. That counts.
That's a reboot.
No. As much as you don't want it to count, Dragon, it counts as much as these
I'm
movies
saying
do.
People have put the theory out there that the original ones connect to these as reboots. So with that, Tim Burton one's it's on the outskirts.
Right, fair enough. So Tim Burton is kind of like the Elseworld in this situation.
Exactly, he's the Elseworld. Hey, we have instead of Statue of Liberty, we got Abraham Apekin.
Okay.
Or Abraham Lincoln. That's the one. Okay.
All right. So it's been a couple weeks out. We've had a ton of stuff going on in July. Dragon. We
were snowed in for Christmas in July, so we couldn't get to this.
No, I mean, it was an incredibly busy month. It wasn't just Christmas in July, Dragon. It was, we did like 4 or 5 days straight of D23 coverage. And then we talked about Comic-Con. There was a lot of stuff going on. So, alas, it is August 1st when we're recording this. Probably going to be August 2nd when it gets uploaded to the channel. But let's go ahead and start things off, Dragon, because I think this is not to give away too much on my feelings, but I just think this movie it's certainly worth talking about, even though it's a couple weeks out. So, all right, so Dragon, I guess let's just kind of start on give some brief thoughts on the franchise in general, and then get into kind of like our expectations and then thoughts coming out. So I'll start. I gotta say, I've never really been the biggest fan of the original Planet of the Apes movies. I haven't even really seen any of the sequels. I'm not the biggest fan of the Charlton Heston version. I think the Charlton Heston version is a little like it's got good ideas in it. It's basically like a feature, like the original Charlton Heston version, for my money, would have made a better Twilight Zone movie than the actual Twilight Zone movie, because that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's basically like an hour and a half version of the Twilight Zone. It's got good makeup for the time. I think Charlton Heston's acting is a little hammy. I mean, he's a great performer, but it's just kind of like Charlton Heston's a weird sort of performer where he's somewhere between like old school Hollywood version of acting and like method acting. So I don't know. Like the original Planet of the Apes, it definitely has some pacing issues at the beginning. Like it's a good half hour, I think, until you get to the ape village. There's a lot of meandering around. I don't think it's a perfect movie by any means. I think it was a good sort of sci-fi film that sort of set the standard for adult sci-fi in a lot of ways. But I definitely think that this new series of Planet of the Apes movies has been, I gotta say, Dragon, I think all 3 of them are better than the original Planet of the Apes.
That's fair. The originals, well, with the first one holds up. I think the first one still holds up in like the history of film, but I think the sequels, it's really like comparing apples and oranges with the original films and with the new ones coming out. But they're both reflective of kind of how they were big for their time. They were big for their time and kind of pushing the envelope in terms of kind of like basically having a film where your cast is predominantly a different species.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, they're different methods. Again, I love they're not really duplicating the methods of which they're making their movies, but they are kind of the same film in some way.
All right, so let's get my thoughts on the franchise. I just think the original or the remake franchise, the Dawn. I'm sorry, it's always bothered me, Dragon. It's always bothered me because the first one really should have been called Dawn, And then the second one should have been called Rise. That always gets to me. Because what comes first? The dawn comes first.
Well, that's because they didn't know they were coming back for more. It was gonna be like, hey, if we just wanted to tack on like, hey, like a what if kind of start of it all, that would be Rise. It's the Rise of the Apes, and realize, oh wait, we're doing more. Well, what was the other good thing we had to start with? That'd be Dawn. If we had to do it again, let's do Dawn. Let's make that the next one.
Okay, so Rise of the Planet of the Apes, I think, is a very good movie. I think it's more watchable than the remake or than the original is, although I think the original is probably better filmmaking. I think Rise is probably the weakest of the three. I think it's actually kind of a significant step down from Dawn and War. But having said that, this is a good film. Of course, it's almost kind of like a boy and his dog story with Caesar and Franco for most of the movie. Of course, you've got a great supporting performance from the ever lovable John Lithgow. That's one of his best roles that he's had post Dexter. Yeah. The thing that really bogs Rises down for me, to tell you the truth, is Franco. I love John Lithgow. Franco in that movie never really sold me. He's always kind of felt like out of place in that movie. I don't know why. It's hard to, like, much in the same way it's hard to take Mark Wahlberg seriously as an astronaut. It's hard to take James Franco seriously as a scientist. I don't know.
Well, you gotta remember, James Franco in real life, he actually is really smart. I could buy him as a scientist based on that. I gotta tell you, just because, again, the guy is multi-talented.
I don't know. It's always been something of a disconnect for me in that movie. And also, I think fucking Draco Malfoy, Tom Felton. I heard he's on The Flash, and I heard he does a decent job on The Flash from what I've heard.
Yes, season 3 is introduced, and he's introduced in 3.
I just think that he gave an awful performance in Rises. Just his character was so bad in Rises that it kind of drags the whole film down with it a little bit. Right. Then along came Dawn for the Planet of the Apes, or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which I think is one of the most significant jumps in quality from a first movie to a second movie, right up there with something like Spider-Man 2.
Jason Clarke is really good in that movie.
I mean, that movie, it was kind of a game changer in terms of
and that was also directed by Matt Reeves.
Oh yeah. Just in terms of visual effects, in terms of telling a story mostly through sign language, like the 8 version of sign language, not even like the official ASL. That was a bold, risky move. I still remember having my jaw drop the first time I watched the first 20 minutes or so of that movie, where it's just getting us into the ape culture.
One could say it's the AASL.
Oh yeah. Yes. Okay, and then War for the Planet of the Apes. I didn't really know what to expect out of this one, Dragon. I was hoping for the best. From what I was hearing from the critics, I was hearing it's a really good one. Don't go in expecting it to be as good as Dawn. And I've got to say, Dragon, walking out of it, I think this movie's a masterpiece. I think this movie is one of the best action movies we've gotten in the past 10 or so years. I think this is a triumph in filmmaking. It's just all around a perfect movie for me in a lot of levels. I think by far out of the movies, it's got the most interesting character dynamics. It's all 99% ape culture. That's just a bold move. Not to say that the characters in the other movies were bad. I just think that, especially Caesar's personal journey and everything, it's like the stakes in this one are so ramped up compared to the other two. Just the way that the story is told in this one, the pace of it. Woody Harrelson is the villain. I love Woody Harrelson in this movie. I think he does an amazing job. Just the set pieces. I love the snow aesthetic of this one. I think Bad Ape is a fantastic character that breathes new life into the franchise. I just think that the whole story of the trilogy is wrapped up incredibly well. This is a great movie on its own, but combined together with the first two truly makes this a trilogy that's I think people should be looking at this movie the same way that people look at Star Wars and Toy Story is one of the best trilogies of movies, just based on quality and how much it kept upping itself each movie. I'm not sure if you feel the same way, Dragon, if you think this is a better movie than Dawn. I think For me, pretty definitively it is, because I was like engaged all the way through this one in the way that, like with Dawn, I was kind of like drawn in and engaged with, but there was a certain kind of, I think Dawn, like I think this movie kind of perfected what Dawn, like the foundation that Dawn laid out, like the foundation of having a movie that's mostly centered on ape culture, you know, a movie that's kind of about the humans and the apes sort of coexisting. I think like all the ideas that Dawn sort of presented, I think are perfected in this movie. So I'm not sure if you feel the same way. I know I'm kind of in the minority of people who think this is the best of the trilogy. I know most people kind of think this is sort of like the second best compared to Dawn, but Dragon, what are your thoughts?
All right. Well, on the trilogy as a whole, I mean, I've always just kind of stumbled upon these, and I've just kind of like I haven't seen them out in theaters until this one because I was impressed by the other two. I think I saw Rise on TV on like FX, and they're rerunning, and that's how
it's the same for me. It took me forever to see Rise, and then I think I saw Dawn like as soon as it hit video. But I'm pretty sure the only reason I didn't see Dawn in theaters just because I was very low on money at the time. There was a lot of other movies coming out, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, with Rise, I remember the trailer for Rise was really interesting. Saying, oh, okay, they're kind of adding a kind of basically it's kind of a soft reboot for the Planet of the Apes, but at the same time, it's kind of it is kind of a vague it's a vague origin point for it. It's a prequel with a soft reboot.
Okay, it's a prequel. It's an origin story. It's a reboot. And Dragon, I would also say it's a remake of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
In a way, yes.
So it's all those things. I mean, I've never seen Conquest, but I've seen that comparison quite a lot.
Yeah. And again, with that, Rise, Rise was good, and there are a few elements that do stick out again, like the Drago Malfoy overall. Basically, how we kind of work it, we kind of force in a few references in the first one. And
get your stinky hands off me, you damn dirty ape!
Yeah, we force in a few references like that, and but the story of the first one's pretty solid. Okay, and we see the Caesar subjected to kind of the cruelty of. Some cruelty of humanity, and he's treated very rottenly. We get to see he did come from a loving place, which is why we have kind of the thing built into the Caesar lineage of having a soft spot for humans, which I thought was a really great idea. Mm-hmm. Andy Serkis, of course, he is great. It's a great story, just kind of Caesar and Caesar and his friend, played by James Franco. Kind of growing and kind of going off on his own by the end. Of course, the bridge sequence is really cool, and again, like the trailers, there's that bit in the trailer, just like the giant, the giant gorilla in the room with like people sleeping, just was really eerie still.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, it's got a lot of cement. It kind of laid the foundation for like, yeah, let's see some more. And again, they could have just ended it there because we had that really cool ending with the mid or post credit thing where the virus is sweeping the nation. Again, there's enough there. It's like, okay. That's all I need to know about where the Planet of the Apes came from. Honestly, mm-hmm. It's like, okay, the virus spread up, the humans died off, and the apes are just going to get smarter and smarter over time. They're going to rule the place. Okay, I love the storytelling of that. When Dawn, Dawn, I kind of happened upon not on like cable TV, but on not on like FX, like with commercials. I got it on demand. I think on HBO when it came. It's like, oh man, this is great.
So you were kind of like me, where it's like at that point you were kind of ready to see Dawn. You didn't just stumble on it.
Yeah. Like I saw again. I had seen the trailer for Dawn. It's like I'd like to see that, but I'm probably not going to see it in theaters. But when it comes on demand, I was looking forward to it instead of just being happening upon it. So my interest keeps building with each film.
Right. So,
and with Dawn, I was like just kind of surprised. I wanted to just like pretty much based on a trailer, like maybe like the reveal, like them having the war paint on in the jungle, and then we had like the one trailer with again Jason Clarke. I remember like that show Jason Clarke walking on kind of that archway, like all the apes kind of imposingly around him. So again, that's kind of what I was going into the movie with.
I think the most memorable part of the ad campaign of Dawn was the scene with Kobu and the gun.
Oh yes, and that was
where Kobu he stumbles into the human camp with the gun, and at first everyone's like, "Oh, it's a silly ape, ha 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 ha, stupid monkey." But
Yeah.
then, or I don't think Kobu has the gun. You know, he just kind of like wanders in and starts
Yeah,
playing
Koba does
dumb.
like Koba like silly performs for them, and then
Uh-huh.
basically while they're laughing their heads off,
He
he
grabs the gun, and it suddenly, like, the moment he grabs that gun, Kobu goes from like hilarious to like terrifying.
And I heard that's based on like some real footage of like an ape doing something similar to
Oh,
that.
jeez. Oh,
Like, I don't know if he
I
actually
never want
fired
to
it.
go to a zoo again if that's the case.
I was saying it's like that's based on something. I know that much. I don't think he fired, but it's like basically an ape did something. He entertained him, then he did something horrific. Let's see. But yes. So basically, I was definitely interested in Dawn. I was like really. I liked that. I remember I liked Dawn more than I did Rise. I liked the storytelling in Rise. This one like kind of fixed like the thing. Like it was very natural. It was its own movie. I just loved the world building we really got in Dawn. Again, I love Jason Clarke's character. This guy again. Jason Clarke's my kind of character you have in a movie like this, where he's going to be the guy who, after he's told like, no, don't come back here, he comes back here because he has to, and he explains it all. That's my kind of guy, Tiki. It's like him saying, listen, we have to fix the dam, and I just love that relationship he had with Caesar in that movie, and of course we had kind of the Koba uprising, and I just love the idea of again, and Matt Reeves is really he just kind of squeezed in there under the radar. And again, like everyone remembers, like, hey, Dawn was good. And it was better than Rise. And again, now we're all completely blown away by Matt Reeves with this one, because now his name's really known. Now, before it was just kind of slept in. Whoever directed that was a really good director. Now we know that good director's name.
Right.
And like the only gripe I had with Dawn, really, for me, it's a very minor gripe. It doesn't hurt the movie, but it's well, I love the idea of kind of taking Caesar out of the equation, like at the end of the second act, and then his son is kind of like we kind of continue the story with his son, with Blue Eyes. And we're patching Caesar up. We have that really beautiful scene. One of my favorite scenes of the whole thing is when Blue is kind of like having that scene, his father apologizing for kind of siding with Koba.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, again, that was all good and kind of going into the city. And again, basically after the gun scene onward, when kind of Koba led the charge into the city, and Gary Oldman, I thought was kind of a cool kind of human bad guy. Again, bad guy in the sense of like we don't want to be killed by apes.
Right.
Anyway, but the thing, my gripe with it was that I don't know. I think the whole the battle between Caesar and Koba at the end, it was a little. It felt a little grandiose to me. It felt like, I mean, again, it's not like the end of the world. Like, it's not like a serious dig against the movie. Just like something like, obviously, like, yeah, that's kind of where we go a little generic in the end with it.
No, I hear you. I always thought the Koba character was a little overrated for that reason. I felt like don't get me wrong, the stuff that they do with him, like the gun thing that I mentioned, is good. I just think that the whole plot line between Caesar and Koba, it's a little standard for me.
I love how and this is one of the things I'm really going to praise when we get to this movie, which I'll get to in just a second. Uh-huh. With this franchise, I love how we keep building on the myth, and we keep developing it, and we keep a continuity, because we see the origins of Koba. He's kind of like the evil version of Caesar in that program.
Sure.
He kills his own master instead of like saying goodbye to his master like Caesar. And then of course that's seated in Rise, and then we see Koba really come out of the ranks there and just challenging his authority, and the big moment of him. While that sequence is like, yeah, we're gonna maybe.
I think the story with Koba was told well. It's just a story that we've seen before in other kinds of movies like this.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So just Dawn is Dawn was good, and it was a good continuation. Again, like that when he's reflecting on James Franco, and just he's reflecting on Franco, and again that goodbye to Clark, saying, "I didn't start the sword. We're going to be stuck with it."
Mm-hmm.
All that was good. It was a step in the right direction. I was like eager to see another one. I heard there was another one in the way. Oh yeah, sure, yeah. And of course we got the trailer for this with like kind of the Caesar in the snow, and oh boy. So going into this, I enjoyed the first two. Again, I never saw them in theaters. Trailers always look good for them. And of course the big thing that really built my hype going into this, aside from the really cool looking trailers. And I had the trailers, and then I found out right before, a month or so before it came out, Matt Reeves, maybe not a month or so, but I found out before it came out, early in the year, I guess, Matt Reeves was taking on the Batman movie. So that definitely that really kind of built my intrigue. Saying, okay, that's because he did take over for the one director from Rise to Dawn.
Rupert Wyatt, I think. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, he took over for that guy, and now he's going to be taking over Batman, again, taking over from Affleck to himself now, and I think basically that really intrigued me, to definitely go to theaters to see this, see how see how he'd stack up, see if there's any evidence of like a really good potential for a Batman movie in here.
Mm-hmm.
And I came out of it, and I have all the faith in the world in Matt Reeves for Batman. I was very impressed.
Nice.
It's a really great finale for Caesar's story. It feels very much like an end of a saga in the Apes universe. I say saga, and that's like a chapter of stories. Like not a chapter, you know what I mean, like a chapter in the grand scheme of stories, I guess, perhaps. But again, like just for like a trilogy, it's a really good ending, and that's I would say, I mean, I was more impressed by this on like every level versus just the other two. Again, I thought the other two were good, but I think this one just all around, like there wasn't really a chink in the armor for this one for me.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Alrighty then. So I guess do you have any backstory you want to get into then?
Yes, I do. I'm just going to whittle this down a little bit here, and just kind of give a little bit of the crux, like the origin from the series to this. So this was the third in the series. We have Rick Jaffa had. Do a little reflection here. So, of course, this is the third in the series. The origin of the series is that Rick Jaffa, one of the writers, he had the inciting idea of Rise based on, again, like one of those videos I was talking about, where a chimp is kind of adapting to a human environment. So again, it's kind of based on real life, and he basically kind of got the idea of watching like videos or like hearing stories about kind of chimps and apes doing these. Trying to adapt to life. That kind of gave the idea of like, what if Caesar was raised by humans? So he kind of melded it with like an existing franchise. Of course, well, what if an idea like that, just how we kind of like always kind of focus on these types of stories, what if that melded with something that we all know was kind of like a horrifying inevitability? So that kind of led to the idea of flushing out the history of Planet of the Apes.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, could lead to a just that I could lead to Planet of the Apes. So again, a soft reboot. My comparison is it's very much like a Bates Motel vibe, but that it's different. It is very much kind of a Bates Motel idea.
Right.
Yeah, we're updating it, but at the same time we know where it's going. So it's kind of essentially that's kind of the prequel soft reboot you're going for with this for the franchise. And again, we go from Rupert Wyatt in the first with Rise to Matt Reeves with Dawn. Rise set up the human connection, the virus. Dawn is the end of Act 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like many sequels in a franchise. Again, very much like now the apes are taking over. It's just the dawn of the apes taking over, of it becoming a planet of apes.
Mm-hmm.
Basically being unable to avert war. Now they said this, and this is something you don't know in the movie here, but it's Reeves confirmed this, that he was going to have a mention of the Jason Clark Malcolm character, but he was.
I've heard of this. Yes.
So he confirmed that while they were going to have a line in there, but they just kind of took it out so it wouldn't overcomplicate things. But in a scene where Caesar and the Colonel are talking, the Colonel, he would have asked like what happened to Malcolm. The Colonel killed him, and just he killed him off because he had like an unhealthy idea that the apes didn't want war, and just it would have.
Which I mean, that totally makes sense for what we know about the Colonel and what we know about Malcolm. So
certainly,
yeah,
I don't blame him for cutting it. Again, I like that at least he addresses. At least we know. So at least it's out there. Okay, let's see. So this film was just written by Reeves and Mark Bomback, who. They were kind of paired together. They never worked from the beginning of a movie onward, but Mark Bomback, they were kind of they worked together from the beginning on this one, so they were more confident from working on Dawn. Just two guys were just kind of paired together halfway through the movie, writing and directing Dawn. They now worked from the very beginning conceptually, so now it's like a much stronger kind of report and stronger writing, I think. Now, originally, Koba was going to return to the land of the living in this movie.
Oh, I am glad they didn't do that.
Yes, they abandoned it for the very simple story reason. Again, we get this from kind of this new pairing here, is that they realized, you know what, his story's over. We don't need to continue it. So that they realized there was initially an idea of like we were going to reveal maybe like a. While the credits of Dawn are playing, you hear at the very end, you hear the sounds of Koba, breathing. So, they suggested that Koba was alive, but it was kind of still obscure. So, if they wanted to bow out of it, they could. So, they kind of abandoned the idea of Koba being alive.
Mm-hmm.
And just the last thing, guys, it's kind of they're going with the premise of this is they're going biblical with Caesar. They're going biblical with Caesar's Ark with this film. It's very Apocalypse Now stylistically, along with kind of especially with the Colonel character. It's really Bridge over the River Kwai, the Alex Guinness film.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And of course, Great Escapes. That's all the real backstory I got for this.
Yeah, it's interesting, Dragon, because the one complaint I keep seeing with this film is that oh, it's not a war movie. It's not a war movie, and I'm like, what? No, it's totally a war movie. It might not be wall-to-wall action like you're expecting it to be. Something like Dunkirk is wall-to-wall action.
Well, here's the thing. It's more like it is a war movie, but it's more of a prisoner of war movie.
I mean, I think it's even bigger than that, though, Dragon. I think the themes of war, like you said, it's it's very much got kind of like an Apocalypse Now sort of vibe to it. And by the way, this is only the Dragon. This is only the second movie this year featuring a CGI ape that takes huge influence from Apocalypse Now. The second being Kong Skull Island.
Oh yes. Yeah.
And honestly, both these movies are all the better for the Apocalypse Now vibe. Apocalypse Now. Who would have thought that would pretty much become a subgenre?
The only way you make the apocalypse cooler, you have apes. That's the only way. Why, if we're gonna have another war, why can't we have it with apes?
Oh god. Because in real life that would probably be terrifying.
It would, but still, I'm saying we're all going out. Let's go out. In amazement.
Anyways.
Oh my god, there's an ape on horseback with a machine gun. This is awesome, but we're gonna die.
So, like I said, Dragon, I think the themes, I think people are really misinterpreting the title of this movie and kind of giving it some unfair slack because, frankly, this franchise has never been about wall-to-wall action, and I don't want it to be about wall-to-wall action. I think this franchise has always been built on big ideas and kind of exploring those big ideas through the central character. And I think War kind of picks up the pieces of that and explores kind of the big sort of philosophical ideas of war through two characters in particular, being Caesar and the Colonel. So with that in mind, Dragon, these big ideas, what's the plot that surrounds these big ideas?
All right, here's the plot in a nutshell here. So where we are in the history of this trilogy, of this franchise here is population we've decreased the population from the simian flu that has enhanced the very same virus that enhanced the apes, the Alzheimer's cure that enhanced the apes, gave them the super intelligence. As the years have gone by, they've become smarter, and more humans are dying off, or something's happening before they're dying off. So they're being we'll get to that. They're being wiped out, definitely. And this is increased with and more humans are being wiped out with this war, with the war of man and ape. Mm-hmm. We have Alpha and we have the representation of our men trying to wipe out the apes before the apes wipe them out. Again, very paranoid, very kind of like X-Men, mutie haters type thing.
Oh yeah.
We have Alpha and Omega again, like I am the Alpha, I am the Omega. Again, very. And of course, a reference to the Planet of the Apes. Alpha and Omega, that is basically they're the most ruthless militant force, kind of dealing with the ape threat. And when they say dealing with the ape threat, they mean actually kill them instead of trying to broker peace with them. Mm-hmm. Let's see, and those and importantly, those infected are they're targeting apes and those infected by the simian flu that has now developed to a point of, if not before death, then just in place of death, is taking away functions of the brain, which would result in people not being able to speak or taking on ape-like mannerisms.
And to me, Dragon, that was the coolest sort of building block to the Planet of the Apes proper. You know what I mean? Oh, okay, it all makes sense now.
I know, right? So let's see. Right. Caesar wants the war to end peacefully because again, it's war's going on. It's been in terms of the history here, just it was 10 years since Rise, and this has been a couple of years after that. So let's say roughly 13 to 15 years since Rise. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's see. Caesar. So Caesar wants the war to end peacefully, but the ruthless colonel, a ruthless colonel, played by, of course, the wonderful Woody Harrelson, is making it personal by killing Caesar's wife and son, Blue Eyes. Yeah. Caesar sends apes to the. He sends the rest of his apes to the Forbidden Zone. Big Planet of the Apes reference. Forbidden Zone. He sends them out to the Forbidden Zone as he and his most trusted friends go on a mission to kill the Colonel, which draws the. Importantly, he's getting his revenge, but he's also drawing the attention away so they can get safe passage to the Forbidden Zone. It's kind of a twofold mission. Mm-hmm. They find an infected child along the way, who later is named Nova. They bring her along because, again, they feel kind of responsible for killing her father, and also, again, like she's kind of defenseless and infected by the simian flu. Caesar walks into a trap and learns that his apes were captured because he wasn't there. It's up to Caesar and his friends to escape their prison that all the apes have now been relegated to before a violent conflict between, again, not even between ape and man, a violent conflict between the two military groups of hers, wiping them out in the crossfire so they can go to the, so in the end they can all trek out to the safe Forbidden Zone. That's the movie.
I've also heard the Forbidden Zone being referred to as the Great Valley, and as a huge fan of The Land Before Time, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. That's a pretty apt comparison. Anyways. All right. So, Dragon, let's get into the characters then. Let's, of course, start with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Caesar. Yeah, just give Andy Serkis an Oscar nomination already. Like, he doesn't have to win, but just give him a nomination, because this performance, and I say performance, that's what it is. It's not an effect. It's a performance. It's mind-boggling, Dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the Ape franchise is just kind of like, I love how, like, throughout the whole thing, technically Caesar's been the main character, but they've also kind of had, like, these sort of, like, stand-in, like, almost kind of like how the, like, Hellboy's babysitter was sort of like the audience avatar character in the original Hellboy movie. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, John Myers, yeah.
Right. It's almost kind of like we've had characters like that. Like we had Franco, and then we had Malcolm in the second movie, who were almost kind of like avatars of, like the human condition and the human point of view. And that avatar, Dragon, is more or less stripped away in this movie. Yep. That's kind of like the bold decision that they make. You know what's fun, Tiki?
What we do, we have a fun subversion of the avatar, is that we with that avatar type character here, where the character called Preacher in the movie, that one human character that Caesar could have killed, but he spares to communicate the message we don't want war. That guy is. You're kind of led to believe almost that he is going to possibly...
He's going to be like the Malcolm type.
Yes, and when it counts, he will be that Malcolm type. And again, he very much is the complete opposite of that. Right. And again, that's a wonderful kind of payoff of that idea. And secondly, again, it's kind of it's all Caesar's movie. Again, we don't. The human perspective has been tainted, so if we look at ourselves through humanity, we're going to be really disgusted with ourselves. It has to be all Caesar and the apes.
If you were to ask me to give you a one-sentence summary of this movie, Dragon, I would basically say Woody Harrelson turned Caesar into Batman.
Oh, that's an instant sell for me, I gotta tell you.
Because really, it's like after the big inciting incident in Act 1, it's like Caesar goes into just full-on Batman mode. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And of course, the Matt Reeves thing, it's like, yeah, that's gonna come to mind. But I don't know. It's like this story is very much like, I love how this story is kind of like throughout the two movies we've kind of seen like the downfall of man, right? And like what man's done wrong. And this movie is very much sort of like the downfall of Caesar and the steps that Caesar could have taken differently along the way. How he gets blinded by anger and hatred in the same way that Koba was. Now, one thing I will say, Dragon, I wish that they would have just kept the flashbacks of Koba out of it. Like, that, to me, is probably the weakest element of this whole movie.
To be fair, they weren't flash. They were like dreams. They had, like, a few nightmares.
And to tell you the truth, that kind of made it even worse. Like, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of the dream sequence whenever it pops up in movies. I wasn't a big fan of it in Batman v Superman. And I'm not a big fan of it here.
He only had it like twice, though. He only had.
I know, which is why it absolutely doesn't like take away from the movie all that much at all. It's just kind of like it's just a little cheesy when it does happen, and I honestly like I honestly don't think we needed it to understand that Caesar's becoming like Koba. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I kind of, I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah.
So let's see. So what's Caesar? Let me hit a few things with Caesar.
Yep.
Of course, I think this is the best Caesar's look, and I love the visual continuity with Caesar in these movies. He's at his youngest in Rise. He's kind of in his prime in Dawn again as the leader. And I love with his speech pattern. He keeps developing. He has like no or home. Those are like his two words in Rise. And then he has a very kind of broken style of English. Again, he can, like the ideas out of the Apes. Like I want to say Koba can speak again because he was also like a lab ape, so they had like the most kind of human interaction.
Right.
So the point is, those two guys, they can probably speak the most out of the whole tribe. Maurice is like he's the pinnacle of sign language in the group. He probably taught a lot of them sign language if they didn't know already. But the point is, again, Caesar's speaking broken English in that movie. Now he's speaking full senses, and like it's great. It's again, but I love he's speaking full senses, but he's not a verbose character. Again, they play him very. Again, it's Batman with apes. That's what this movie is.
Absolutely.
I'm very thrilled with it. It's again, I love that continuity in that arc form. That now we're at a point we're in kind of that. Again, we use the Batman comparison because I have to. It's he's at his point. And again, this gives me all the faith in the world. And the thing I'm really going in this movie that really psyched me for this movie is that I was reading an article, Matt Reeves, that basically someone asking, "How is Caesar similar to Batman?" And again, he spoke to it like, "Give this guy a Batman movie. I want to see what he's going to do with him," because he gave a very good response. Basically, saying, again, like Caesar's the character's kind of like. The scene that kind of communicated this for me is like when Caesar in the beginning is just kind of he's being asked like, "Why did you let those men go?" That to me, that's like such a Batman thing of like I'm just going to sending a message. He's very he internalizes a lot. That's the thing he said. He said basically he's a character who internalizes.
And then also the internalization is kind of like his biggest downfall at the same time. You know what I mean?
And again, that's like a very Batman. It's like a Batman, like kind of in the like little after the middle of his career, which is a really sweet spot with Batman.
Oh yeah.
And again, like he went from in this trilogy, he went from the innocent to the leader, and now he's.
It's just really great. Like I've never seen a main character in a trilogy progress like this.
Yeah,
it's crazy. This is an incredible arc. Like not even taking into account the motion capture and the CG and all that, Dragon. Not even taking into account the technical aspect of the character. I just think the arc of the character, from a storytelling point of view, is incredible.
Yeah, and with that arc, again, he goes from the innocent to the leader to kind of this legend / historical figure. So he's a myth.
I love how this movie is very much all about kind of like Caesar's legend is already sort of like in the process of being written.
Yeah. This is the exciting final chapter. Again, this
is
what makes you a legend, having an ending.
Oh God, so good, so good.
And with that, it's and again, that's what's so fascinating about his character. I mean, you can look at when I spoke to like this is the best he's ever looked. Again, the effects look great, but with the effects looking so good, I mean, I love he has like a beard now. He has an ape beard.
Right.
The gray end of he didn't have that hair in Dawn, and it's just that it looks so realistic, it looks so good. I have like this very simplistic thing with Caesar's kind of got. It's very pleasing to me. I was watching the movie. I think it looks awesome when he's just kind of like. Remember, it was like he's like a manacle. He's just kind of walking. Like we see that shot in the trailer all the time, where he's and was just standing up, walking alongside humans. He looks so kind of. I don't know. I love the ways like he walks upright like that. Just,
I hear you. I hear you.
That to me is so good. He carries himself like a Batman. That's awesome.
And I think the movie does a really good job in terms of just the effects work of kind of like differentiating Caesar's body language and the way he moves from the other apes.
Like I could watch that almost all day, seeing how this one particular ape just kind of walking. I don't know. It's just that's fascinating.
right.
And again, just with the character depth you're talking about, the thing is with the reason I really like the Koba thing is I love what we do with that with Caesar's characters. That he's troubled by the events of Dawn with Koba. That he had a rule that again, somewhat like a Batman had a rule.
This is turning into like a young Bruce Wayne Dylan thing.
To be fair, and people, I'm surprised people haven't made this joke yet. Again, there is a Detective Chimp and Bat Ape. There are those characters do exist.
I am surprised that people haven't made that joke. Oh man.
There's Detective Chimp and there's Bat Ape.
So when I hear that, Dragon, you know what I think of? I think of like the cheesy ass like monkey sidekick from the old Space Ghost cartoons.
what about Speed Racer?
Well, yes, that too. I mean, I feel like those two characters are kind of, bred from the same cloth, so to speak. But
All right, let's see. What I'm getting at though, again, with like a kind of a Joker-esque kind of thing. Basically, it's like, what if Batman took a step further with the Joker? He made a decision to kill him. Now he's living with that choice. That's kind of
exactly. That's exactly what this damn story is,
right? Which is fascinating, right?
Yeah.
And again, like Arkham, like for example, the Arkham games, and again, that's I think it's a good comparison for Reeves, seeing where a lot of people think we might go in the Arkham game direction with this Batman.
And we'll get into it when we get into Harrelson, but I absolutely think Harrelson. Dragon, I know that I know you probably think it's a little premature to say this, and it probably is, but we'll get into it more. I think Harrelson is probably, bar none, the best on-screen villain we've had since the Joker in The Dark Knight, for my money. Harrelson was terrifying in this movie. Anyways.
Right. Let's see, where was I going with it? Yes. But yeah, it's kind of like in the Arkham games, Joker dies and Batman he didn't kill him, but he feels responsible. And the next Arkham game is about him feeling guilty and uneasy in this world without the Joker. And it's kind of a similar thing, only it's far more responsive because he laid out a thing of like ape does not kill ape. Apes and humans, that's one thing. Apes don't kill other apes. It's like a brotherhood thing. And again, and it's such a great moment at the end of that. That's the thing I do love about that ending scene in Dawn, though. As much as I'm so conflicted, I was like, yeah, it's a little by numbers. It has that great bit of like, ape doesn't kill.
It does, yeah.
Basically, ape doesn't kill ape, and you're not ape. You're no longer an ape because you're acting like a human more than you are an ape, and without not so many words. But he tosses him off the thing, and living with that choice, and that's what I love about the internalization. It's like Caesar struggling with the realities and the tough choices of war. That's why it's War of the Planet of the Apes with stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
Again, this excellent internalization, and he's just come such a long way. He's driven by emotion, and the last thing with his arc is, he realizes the consequence of doing something like that, being driven by emotion over logic, again, like a Batman arc.
It's a very compelling story where he realizes what's going on with him. He realizes the road he's going down.
It's a leader who's lost his way, and in the course of the movie, he found it again.
Right, but what I'm saying is, he realizes the road he's going down, and yet he almost feels like he's almost driven, this is my destiny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's my primal nature to do this.
Yeah, I'll say that to me is that's the best part of the movie right there. All the Caesar stuff. I just collectively all the Caesar stuff is just so fascinating.
Okay.
All
right. Let's move on to Caesar's right hand ape, which would be Maurice.
Yeah, Maurice.
God, first of all, I just love the design of Maurice.
Oh yeah.
Always been a memorable character design from the first movie, kind of carried over. Of course, as you mentioned, Maurice, here he's very much almost kind of dare I say it, Dragon, almost kind of like the Jim Gordon to Caesar's Batman.
I was thinking more Alfred.
Alfred, that's a little more accurate. Yeah.
I was thinking more Alfred with it.
Because of course, with Maurice, his whole thing is he knows what a good, I can't say what a good man, for lack of a better word, he knows what a good ape Caesar is, and he knows the trials and tribulations that Caesar's been through and how heroic he's been to his people and everything. And yet he sees the road that Caesar's going down, and it's just that just sort of puts him in just kind of this morally sort of gray area, you know what I mean? I love all the struggle with Maurice in that way. He's kind of like the voice of the audience, sort of saying no, Caesar, don't do it,
Yes. Well, actually, something just occurred to me in the moment because we're going to talk about Maurice here. Is that, Nova technically is our avatar, but she can't speak. She's our avatar, our human avatar, but she can't speak.
Technically, yes, although she's a much different character than Malcolm and Franco.
Exactly. She's only the observer. That's really what her role is. Let's say, but with Maurice, of course, he has a great intellect and a soft spot for human children, as we established in Dawn, where he learns to read thanks to that kid, thanks to Malcolm's son, which is a nice carryover. Again, we keep making Maurice smarter. Again, our apes are getting smarter as the movies go on.
I think this trilogy has a brilliant way of not carrying over specific characters, but carrying over ideas from movie to movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just the fact that we see, he has a soft spot for children. Again, he is, with that, he is the reminder of to Caesar in this really down part of Caesar's life right now. Again, losing his family, that he does have ties to humanity from Rise. Again, he's always a perpetual reminder of that, because again, he met him. Caesar's known Maurice ever since the first movie, when he was put into that that enclosure, that area with all the other apes.
Right.
And again, like, that's how he was like the only friendly guy in there, and I think that was always like the reminder of like the times that when they were kind of really close to humanity. They've seen the good side and they've seen the bad side of it. And in this case, he is like, Caesar's very callous and he's focused on his mission. He was going to leave that girl, and again, Maurice is championing that girl. Like, no, Caesar, remember. Again, much like an Alfred, he's reminding him of the good part of himself. Again, while he's losing his way, this is like an Alfred trying to rein a Batman in who's lost his way.
Absolutely.
And
we also kind of get a similar sort of like, similar ideas to like why he shouldn't pursue the Colonel, to Alfred talking about the Joker in the Dark Knight. The whole like some men just want to watch the world burn sort of philosophy.
Yeah, I love that Maurice rarely speaks, because again, he's perpetually using the sign language, which makes it, when he speaks, when he names Nova, it's such a big moment. The last thing I want to hit, because I'm not really going to spend time on this other characters, because you got me thinking with the Jim Gordon thing with Maurice, is that who actually is our Jim Gordon in this? It actually would have to be Rocket.
Probably Rocket, yeah.
Because Rocket, I don't know if you guys remember this, but Rocket, he was the one who attacked Caesar in Rise, and then of course Caesar beat him, and then he was then on his side from that movie onward. And Gordon, of course, he has to go after Batman. Then he realizes, hey, we're on the same side here, and he's working with them.
Right. I can see
there you go. And he's very loyal to him. He's the second most. Actually, he's the second in command. Again, Maurice is kind of the non-violent type, so it all works out.
Maurice is kind of like, it's like Rocket's kind of the second in command. Maurice is definitely the advisor.
Yeah.
That's a good role for him.
In the future, they suggest he's going to be Dr. Zaius, but they renamed him because the actor's name was Maurice something. So
I would love Maurice is going to be Dr. Zaius?
I'm just saying the orangutan, Dr. Zaius was an orangutan, but obviously it's not the same name, but the actor who played Dr. Zaius was Maurice something. That's their homage to him. So it's a question of if they're actually going to go the Dr. Zaius direction, but have a different name. It's unclear.
Hey, that'd be surprising to see Maurice kind of going into sort of like a dark, villainous direction.
I could buy it
in the context of this movie.
And I think I could buy that, though. I could buy him going in that direction. Because, again, the apes have to go against humanity somehow.
All right. So I guess let's move on to Nova.
Yeah, not a lot here, but she represents humanity, the humanity that is still likable and innocent. And importantly with Nova, the main takeaway I got with her is that she shows that humanity can endure with an ape-like lifestyle. Again, she can't speak, but she's still functioning. It doesn't make her inhuman. She's like, likable child.
There's one bit about Nova that I really want to hit on that people have been talking about. The fact that she doesn't get emotional over the death of her father, and yet she does get emotional over the death of the ape. I forget exactly which ape. Luca, right.
Guard. So basically, Caesar has a guard who vows to protect him. They have like a little moment with like a flower. She puts the flower in. He grabs the flower for her, and then as he dies, she puts the flower in his ear.
So, Dragon, I'm of kind of two minds about this. Like, on one hand, I wish we would have seen a little bit more reaction from her to the father, but on the other hand, I think it almost kind of like, I definitely think it's part of the storytelling, the fact that she does get emotional over Luca, but not about the father. Like, I think it's almost kind of like a byproduct of the simian flu. You know what I mean?
Fair. That's fair, and I like that idea. But my read on it was something a little simpler. It was just that she might not have just put it together that the apes killed her father.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, even just the fact, like, she probably didn't. Yeah, I agree, but I'm just saying, like, she doesn't really have a reaction to seeing him dead or anything.
No, that's fair. Well, I like your idea that the simian flu might make her a little bit more inclined to, be more emotional over the apes than the humans.
Well, I'm just saying in terms of, like, like with the simian flu, like, one could ponder, like, by the time we... Like, of course, one of the things I like about the storytelling in the movie is that stuff is left a little open-ended, but by the time we get to her, we don't know how long she's had the symptoms of the simian flu. And so, like, to me, it's almost kind of like a zombie-style thing where she is, for all intents and purposes, kind of a zombie. And yet when the apes take her in, like I said, it kind of like she sort of is that important like sort of gap between the ape culture and the human culture, where she's the first human to really get entrenched into the ape culture. And as we'll see, going forward into the Planet of the Apes, like that sort of sets the standard for how apes and humans are going to interact going forward, is that humans are going to lose the ability to speak and apes are going to kind of be their superiors. And yet with Nova, that kind of power dynamic is set up, but it's set up in this sort of like loving kind of way, which is an interesting kind of contrast to the ultimate fate of the humans in the ape civilization.
Right.
All right. Okay, so should we talk about probably the best character in the movie besides Caesar?
Yeah, sure.
Bad Ape. Oh my god.
Of course, voiced and performed by the wonderful Steve Zahn.
Yeah, where has that guy been lately, man?
Well, he was in Good Dinosaur, remember?
Oh, was he? Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. This is a much better role than the Good Dinosaur, though.
Yeah, he was the bad guy in Good Dinosaur, though.
Yeah, that's a weak ass villain. That is, I'm saying that is a weak sauce villain.
To be fair, that was like the first. It was the first on-screen death at Pixar. Not even one of the first on-screen deaths at Pixar, because you just ate something alive on screen.
But I'm saying, Dragon, in terms of like the threat level, like that villain has got to be like Edgar status.
Edgar status.
The butler from the Aristocats, Edgar.
Oh.
Like that is just a nothing villain.
All right, well, let's not dwell on Steve Zahn's past.
Okay, yeah.
Unless we're talking about his appearance on Monk, but we're not talking about his appearance on Monk. We're talking about Bad Ape.
So Bad Ape is basically the bing bong of this movie, in that when he first shows up, you have no idea. Yeah, you have no idea if he's a good guy or a bad guy. And the characters don't either, and I love how you get that paranoia with him. I don't know. This is a character who could have very easily been like, oh, yeah, War for the Planet of the Apes was great, except for that one weird side character that they threw in who was kind of like a Jar Jar Binks sort of comic relief. Like, what was up with him? Do
you know what I initially thought they were going with him? My theory in the movie I had to piece together, and there's, I'm pretty sure they kind of coil it, so there's no chance of this, but you know what? The creepy thing I thought they might have done with them is that the simian flu. Well, here's the thing. So we know the simian flu. It eventually wiped out people. So initially it killed people. Now either the simian flu has turned into something else that it just affects the brain. Simian flu can work either one of two ways. One, it does all this stuff to you, and then eventually the brain will fully shut down and kill you. It's basically like the girl. You'll lose your functions. You'll become an ape. You have the ape-like mannerisms. Then you'll have the nosebleed, then eventually you'll die. Like more areas of your brain will be affected, like the whole nervous system shuts down, dead. Or just that kind of mutate into something else. Like over the 10 years, just kind of it's become like a different sort of virus.
Uh-huh.
And my theory is if it's become a different sort of going with like you can survive with the simian flu, but you become something different than yourself, and just with this parallel between the apes becoming more human and the humans becoming more ape-like. Part of me wondered, because he was bald, could he be a human turned
Oh God! Oh God!
Right?
Man. No, that did not cross my mind, Draken.
Can you see that at all?
That'd be a crazy direction to go in with that character, but no.
I was saying because again, initially you don't know if he's human or ape when he's a guy in a coat.
That's true. Yeah,
that kind of got me thinking. Him wearing the coat, like, wait a minute.
But you know what I'm saying though, like it was such a risk for them to do a character like this, like a comic relief character in a movie that is so bleak and depressing. It'd be like throwing Jar Jar Binks into the Shawshank Redemption or something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it works. It works so well, and the reason it works, I think, is that while Bad Ape does have some funny moments along the way, this guy's a very tortured character in his own right, and he's basically shell-shocked and dealing with like post-traumatic stress and crazy, and
he's almost like he's a crazier version of the chatter telephone from Toy Story 3.
I could see that. Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Or Chuckles, like he's that or Chuckles, because he got out and then he doesn't want to go back.
Uh-huh. And he's got a great arc of like, being kind of like reluctant to help the apes, but then getting more and more engaged in their fight as the movie goes on, and he's spending more time with them.
And I love that's a byproduct of his friendship with Caesar, because Caesar inspires courage in him. And that's kind of like another lasting effect of Caesar's leadership, that he is inspiring the best in basically the apes see the best in themselves through Caesar's example, and that's why he wants to save Caesar and so on and so forth. And like he's saving other apes. That ape has a good arc.
Yeah, like I said, I think Bad Ape is like I love the Harrelson isn't necessarily the deepest character. I just love what they do with him. Bad Ape, I feel like, is a really good kind of contrast to Caesar in a lot of ways in terms of like the character development and how his arc kind of weaves its way throughout the movie.
And he's one of the rare speaking apes. It's kind of one of his things. Again, I think they're suggesting that he may have also escaped from the very same lab, but he just had like different adventures on the side, possibly. I think that's what they're.
No. The whole thing was that he was in a zoo.
Oh, right. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, I was kind of like yada-yadaing around that because that's part of one of my favorite moments. But
sorry,
yeah. Okay. All right, so let's get into. We're kind of skipping over some characters, folks. I don't really have a lot. It's mostly just kind of like one or two things a piece here. So let's get into Red, who is otherwise known as the donkey in the movie.
Yes.
Now, Dragon, I've got to say, the big selling point for me to see this movie in theaters is just the idea of the donkeys in general.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was such a great shot in that trailer. Just like apes helping the humans. Like, oh my god, they turncoats what?
Yeah, exactly. Just the idea. And it's even present in the poster, like the idea that the humans have apes on their side. I'm like, oh shit, that's, that's a fascinating idea. I can't wait to see what they do with it. And yeah, my God, I mean, they really do a good job with it. Like,
yeah,
I love how the donkeys are, they're just kind of like a fixture of the plot. You know what I mean? They're just kind of like the muscle to the humans in a lot of ways. But we do get the one donkey, Red, who, has a great sort of character arc. It's a very simple character arc, of sort of like, the whole movie he's taking abuse from the humans, taking abuse, and then finally he has that redeeming moment towards the end, which then ends in tragedy, but it's such a good sort of like heroic sacrifice on his end. It's just sort of like a great, like his screen time. He doesn't have much screen time, but he gives a face to that side of the war. You know what I mean? He gives a good sort of like, for lack of a better word, he gives a good humanity to that side of the war.
Yes, it's a very tragic human story in that it's betrayal in times of war for purely survival. Like he'll take life as a slave and just being demeaned and just kind of like being demeaned and like kind of being more dehumanized if it means survival. And that's Caesar's point of he eventually sees that the point of why Caesar's sacrificing himself for a cause in a way. It's sort of this. By the end, he sees Caesar's point of sacrificing your principles as an ape, so you survive. What will you be then? If you survive, you won't be an ape anymore. You'll just be not. You're not a human. You're not an ape. You're nothing if you compromise these principles.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So again, he kind of takes his stand to save his kind in a way with that kind of following Caesar's influence in the end. That's kind of what Red does, and of course, again, you see it. We see with characters like Winters, to touch on him for a second here, because he's also a donkey, technically.
Yeah, Winter was another character I really enjoyed. I wish he had a little more screen time, but...
I love this. I don't know if you caught this. Winter, he accidentally gets killed.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I got that.
And again, to me, that was a great bit. It's like you see Caesar. I want to say that's what brings. I think I'm screwing the scenes up, but I know on some level that's haunting Caesar along with the whole Koba thing he's going through. Is that he is yet again killed an ape, and he does not take any pleasure from it.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay.
But yeah, it's turncoat with the purpose. It's turncoat with a purpose. He wants to survive it. He doubts we're going to weather this storm. He just wants to make sure he's on the winning side. He does regret it. I mean, he is very apologetic, and again, he only did it to survive.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's move on to the Colonel. He doesn't even have a first name. He's just the Colonel.
Yeah.
Which to me, I don't know, Dragon, like that part of his character is kind of like where I sort of draw my Joker comparisons from. Like this guy truly is sort of like, okay, Dragon, you know that fan theory that Heath Ledger's Joker is an army veteran?
No.
Well, you don't? Oh man, it's a really popular theory. I'm surprised you haven't heard that.
Is this the theory that it's like Joker's the hero of the Dark Knight?
No. It's just the theory that Heath Ledger's Joker served in the military, and that's how he got his expertise in sort of like planning and whatnot. And he had,
really?
Yeah, and you know, basically the war drove him insane. Huh. That's a big theory. You should look into it. Okay. I think it fits, especially like in the realm of a Christopher Nolan movie. I think it fits fantastically. But yeah, but no, I mean, I truly do think that this Colonel character is. I mean, look, he might not be as iconic as the Joker, but just Harrelson's performance mixed with the presence of this guy, you know, like I love the scene, the image of him shaving his head is the. You know, as the Star Spangled Banner is playing, it's like he's definitely got like kind of like a Colonel, a Commander Kurtz vibe.
Colonel Kurtz.
Colonel Kurtz.
Wait,
yeah.
No, I don't think that got me screwed because keep going from Colonel to other things. I do Kurtz. Yeah, Kurtz.
I think it's Colonel Kurtz. Yeah.
It'd be great. I'm surprised they didn't just go I'm sure a part of wanting to go the extra mile to have like his name actually be Kurtz, but they.
Oh God. I don't know. That'd be a little. On
yeah, they probably like in our hearts it's Colonel Kurtz.
Right. But what I was trying to say, Dragon, is like I like this guy comes across as like
very Brando-esque.
Well, yeah, but I was going to say he comes across as like Heath Ledger's Joker before he turned into the Joker in some respects. Like, I don't know, like this guy, like his worldview just absolutely fascinates me. I think he's got one of the most interesting sort of like motivations for doing what he does that I've seen in a villain. And of course, Dragon, we'll get into that with one of your favorite scenes. So we're kind of yada-yadaing around it a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. Woody Harrelson, just like I said, his presence here. I mean, Harrelson is the kind of guy where it's like, unless you give him the right role, his main focal point, his main selling point is going to be comedy, right? Like that's what he's most well known for, like stuff like Cheers and Zombieland and stuff of that nature. And then even stuff like True Detective, which I haven't seen True Detective, but from what I've heard, he's very much kind of like the lighter character compared to Matthew McConaughey. So even
he's also really funny in Now You See Me.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. So Harrelson, like, this is truly like, I mean, he's terrifying, and even like in a franchise like The Hunger Games, which isn't exactly the most cheery franchise, he's still the comic relief character in that. So I don't know, like Harrelson just really did a 180 here. He, you know, it's almost kind of like it's not quite to the same level, but it's sort of reaching the same sort of ballpark as like Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo of just like, oh shit. Like, I'm not saying it's not in the same ballpark as that, because Harrelson has played, you know, he has played unsavory people before. It's not completely new to him like it was to Robin Williams.
It's not exactly going from the genie to stalker serial killer. It's not exactly going from from that necessarily.
But it's still a big transformation for him. And like I said, I think he has such a presence to him. He commands himself so well. The motivation behind what he's doing. I feel like I'm just kind of repeating myself here, but it's just it just all kind of results in a very, very memorable on-screen villain for me, and one that I feel is kind of like a little underrated.
Well, the thing I love, well, I'm going to tiptoe around a little bit here too, is what I love about the Colonel is that I love that he respects Caesar on some level. I really do. That's it.
Well, he respects Caesar, as we've been talking about, in kind of like he's like, you know, Caesar's kind of like a legend.
Yeah. And, he's actually, he does, again, they're both kind of like the leaders of their respective kind of, military force. In a way, he's kind of, I love that I'll get into more, so like he's kind of critiquing him on certain levels. And just with his character overall, I like that the way of operating for him is, he's so far gone. The way he's playing it, he's so far gone, he seals his fate for his arc. It's very much between him and Caesar. It's very principle. It's like principle versus the moral of everything. It's kind of like the principle of like kind of being human in life versus kind of the moral of like being haunted by your actions.
Right, right.
So again, a lot of great stuff to mine from the Colonel. I mean, he's so callous, but at the same time, we know where he's coming from. Like the scary thing is he has a point.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the scary thing. Is like he has a point. It's kind of like, in a way, it's like I'll give your Joker thing this. I'll give him this. It's somewhat of a blend of a. It's kind of, again, gives me a lot of faith in Matt Reeves. I tell you, if he can make a film like the Colonel for Batman movies.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like a cross between. Honestly, he feels more like he feels more like a cool take on Bane than he does Joker. But let's say it's a mixture of a Nolan Joker and a really cool original Bane. So you can mix those two together, you get the Colonel.
I could see that.
Because he's very, again, you got to remember, in the comics, especially right now, he feels a lot like, honestly? He feels a lot like in the comics right now, Tom King, the new writer who's taken on the Batman book that Snyder wrote. Mm-hmm. He was an actual spy. He brings a lot of that mentality, like a war mentality, to the Batman books, and with that, he's used Bane as like the calculating guy who has his own island and everything. Is a military force. I mean, it's this feels very much kind of like that Bane. So the Colonel has a lot of really good stuff going on for me. It's like reminiscent of like really good things you want to do with a callous military leader who's, again, like a Brando Kurt says, he's just too far gone and it's so scary.
Right. Okay. All right, so those are kind of the main characters, Dragon. Let's get into, I guess, pros and cons.
All right, so almost like kind of pros bingo at this point, but
I know, right?
Very obviously Andy Serkis's performance and the effects. The
effects are incredible. I mean, just goddamn, just this franchise is just.
I can watch Caesar walk all day. Just how awesome he carries himself.
Just the snow and the fur and stuff like that.
Again, we had like the bit where Caesar's having like cold water poured him in the winter, and it's like it's like crystallizing on the fur. Like, oh my god, it's breathtaking.
Oh yeah.
It's very to-the-point structure. I love that's the thing that Reeves directing I'm really looking forward to. He has a very to-the-point visual structure with his directing. Like, the sequence where Caesar and company they show up at Nova's house. They show up at Nova's house. They're kicking in the door. It feels very like to-the-point structure. I like.
Right.
We don't really waste any time with this movie. I like that.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, as we were saying, like this movie isn't a war movie in the sense of like wall-to-wall action, but I think a big pro of it is it's a war movie in terms of the ideas of a war movie, which in a weird way, Dragon, that almost kind of makes it a more Christopher Nolan-esque movie than Dunkirk in some ways.
Again, they're different sides of war. That's the thing.
Right,
different sections of war.
Because you would think that the Christopher Nolan one would be the more sort of like heady, like, exploration into the philosophical nature of war, whereas this would be like the wall-to-wall action one.
Imagine this, like in like a room full of directors. Like, let's say they all have like a communal, let's say they have a communal bathroom, but they also have a communal waiting room. So basically, they're all just like like this little waiting area. It's like between movies. Again, this fantasy I'm laying out here. They all have like in front of like this little like assignment area. Like doctors getting like their patient files. Basically, like all the files of assignments are like being handed out. Mm-hmm. And let's just say they bump into each other when they take their files. Oh, excuse me, sorry about that. They pick up the other movie, and like Nolan, let's say Nolan's just flipping through it. You're just like, the philosophical war movie with apes. Oh, that's a new one. Okay. and Reeves is like, wow. And it's like three separate stories. It's like
it's like wall-to-wall action. There's almost no character development at all.
Okay, I'll go with it, man. I mean, I was looking forward to doing Planet of the Apes 3, but okay, I can use a little break. I'll be there for when I come back. All right, toodaloo.
Oh, that is a delightful little fantasy you just laid out, Dragon.
Yep. All right.
Oh, man. Of course, Bad Ape, like I said, a huge risk that could have been monumentally it could have flopped on its face, but instead it ended up being like a really unique element of this movie that I feel like is one of the big things that makes it rise above the other two. No pun intended.
Yep. I love. I'm sorry. Do you go on?
No, I was just gonna say, of course, Harrelson is a very captivating villain. Definitely like Gary Oldman. Like he was fine. I feel like his character was almost a little bit too sympathetic, to the point where like it was almost kind of like misleading. Like I feel like even calling his character a villain is a little misleading. Whereas Harrelson, it's like, yep, that guy's the bad guy, and I like kind of like the cut and dry nature of that. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I might be encroaching on one of your moments, just the smidge here. I might. I love the thing. It's so simple, but I just really like it. I love the mini recap at the top of the movie.
You are kind of encroaching on my thing, so yeah.
You want me to stop going on?
Yeah. Put a pin in that.
Okay. But just make sure you bring that up because I love.
I will. Trust me, I will.
Okay. So, moving on. I like how Koba is kind of a ghost in a critique that is haunting. See, again, more of the fact that he's a critique haunting Caesar, basically a reminder of like, hey, you betrayed your principles.
I will say that Ghost Kobu is better than Ghost Dennis Leary in Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's a step above that.
I mean, honestly, I gotta tell you, with all the joke comparisons, if let's just say Woody Harrelson's the Colonel's Bane, then Koba would technically be Joker. He's the reverse of our guy, and again, with the
and
Arkham
he's in the second movie, yeah.
And with the Arkham thing in Arkham Knight, we have kind of Joker brought back in a similar manner. So it's very much like Koba as his Joker in Arkham Knight.
I think this movie fills in some of the scientific gaps in the Planet of the Apes franchise incredibly well with the simian flu plot line.
And again, the idea of that's why we're going to have it's being such a reverse when Taylor arrives to the planet. It's going to be such a reverse when humans acting like apes and it's being so dehumanized. And there's a reason to it now. It's a great logic.
Sure.
It's very well shot. I can endlessly. Oh my god, it's so well shot.
Oh yeah.
I'm so captivated by Caesar. Again, if I had to pick one element, be Caesar. He's so darn good. Harrelson and Serkis are electric together. They really are. They're so electric together.
Mm-hmm.
Really good world building with the simian flu and everything we already kind of went through. I like that we have levity and that we have a heart amongst all this darkness. Like Caesar, finding his son Cornelius. That's a really heartfelt moment. Again, a lot of heart amongst the darkness.
I like how we get away from San Francisco. I like the change in setting in this movie. I think that works very much in its favor.
You know what their shower scene is, don't you?
Oh, God. What?
That's got to be a Statue of Liberty. That's their shower scene.
Oh, God.
You blew it up!
Oh, man.
That's what they have to build to. That's
of course.
That's the one. That's their shower thing. The question is, are we going to make a different structure? Then we'll have an homage to the statue like in Bates Motel.
I also really this is a line that doesn't get used as often as you maniacs or take your stinking hands off me, but I really love Heston's this place is a madhouse.
Yeah, that's
a madhouse.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's it. I love when Kevin Smith uses that one. I gotta tell you, it's a madhouse. A madhouse. Whenever he talks about Jason using rehab, he uses it's a madhouse. It's really funny.
Monkey was at Disneyland the other day, and he was in line for Peter Pan's flight, which, Dragon, I know it's different in Disney World, but Disneyland Peter Pan's flight just gets notoriously awful wait times. And so he told me he was in line for Peter Pan, and I was just I texted him back, this is a madhouse! A madhouse!
I like that we have a small main cast, and it's predominantly ape, as we kind of went through.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. It's not afraid to be bleak, and that's an admirable quality. It's not afraid to be bleak.
Yeah, I'll touch on the music more when I get into moments, but the music is fantastic.
I still can't get over how great that trailer music is. The it's it gets more operatic, but it's a low note. It's a deeper note, but it keeps getting more operatic and it expands. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. I also love the drum rendition of the 20th Century Fox logo is amazing.
Oh yeah, you're right. That is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
No plot points are wasted. Nothing is wasted.
Yeah, totally.
Well, everything that is put in there does pay off. All right, I already went through kind of again. I like that it's vague enough that we have theories about the simian. How far does it go? Could man turn into ape? But at the same time,
that ape is not a human.
I know he's not. I'm just saying. I like that. Based on that, I like that it got me thinking stuff like that.
Right,
I like that. It's, I like the simian flute. Like we're doing new stuff with the simian flute. It's not just simple. We're expanding interesting ideas with it. Okay. So yeah, I think we're on the cons then. Very few on the cons.
Very brief here.
Oh, one pro we got. They actually made a poo joke work in a movie.
Oh yes, they did. Yes, they did. Okay.
That's a rarity. They did like the joke we were all waiting for in this entire trilogy. We were all kind of like dreading, and they actually made it work in plot.
Right.
It's like they did. It's like here's kind of the reverse of that. They did it. They made it work.
All right. So yeah, I know you don't agree with me, but I think the Kubo ghost thing was a Kubo.
Kubo.
The
Kubo.
The Koba.
He doesn't play guitar. Koba.
Oh god, yeah, the Koba ghost I thought was a little unnecessary. I kind of thought that we got the whole shades of Caesar becoming Koba without the ghost thing. Let's see, Dragon. If there's any wasted moments at all in this movie, I kind of feel like in the concentration camp section of the movie, we almost sort of repeat the same stuff, like maybe once too many times, like the same sort of. Like, we have a succession of days in that where it's like, like we see, like, the apes being worked to death, we see Caesar. Like, we almost kind of get into a little bit of a, like, okay, we see, like, 2 or 3 days where the same general stuff is going on. And it is a build-up to Caesar revolting and everything like that. But, I don't know, if there was any screen time I would cut away, I would maybe, like, trim down the concentration camp stuff just a little bit.
I don't know. It builds to that gun scene I really like, so I can't really take any of that out. I don't. It's me on it. But
again, I mean, like you said, this is a very hard movie to cut anything from. So.
Yeah, like for me, here's something I would have added. I would have added one brief scene because basically we kind of telegraph Luca's death a little bit. I'm not crazy about that. Again, it's very minor. I mean, like they do as much as they could without adding a scene. But I would have liked a scene before Luca gets killed because we have basically he gets the flower.
Then he gets the flower and then dead.
That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't have been nice to not see it coming. It's like
it's almost kind of like Vin Diesel in Saving Private Ryan. It's like he saves the little girl and then dead.
He doesn't even save that little girl. That's the leave her there. It's so sad.
Right.
But you see what I mean though. It's like it's not telegraphed, but it's like just when it happens, like oh man, we should have seen that coming. Darn it.
No, I hear you. Let me see.
Aside from, I'm just going to echo like the general complaint here. I'm not really saying this aside from the opening sequence. So I'm not going to describe. But aside from the opening sequence, there's not much war between ape and man. It's mostly man and man. But
well, like I said, it's all about the philosophy of war, the ideas of war, which I think makes the title fit. Speaking of that point, though, Dragon. I do wish that somehow we would have built up this other opposing army, like we would have seen a little bit more from it.
Yeah, because they're very vague on it because we just assume, okay, they're going to wipe out the apes when they get through. But again, it's unclear what the difference between the two armies is.
Right.
I want to say the only difference is that one's killing humans and apes instead.
I think that is the difference. Yeah, that is the difference. Is that the Colonel kind of went off the deep end. Yeah,
that seems to be about like again. We barely even know we did see them. We saw them. I think that we saw that they're the guys with the cool mask at the end.
To make another comparison to Dunkirk, they're kind of like the Germans from Dunkirk, where they're sort of like the off-screen threat the whole time.
Not to the same level, but yes, you're right.
No, I definitely think it works better in Dunkirk than it works here, but
I mean, but we do get like one glimpse at when they're all wearing like the cool mask and like they're all just like wiped out by the avalanche. So we do get a quick glimpse at, but we have no idea what they're about.
That avalanche is totally like a predecessor to the inevitable live-action avalanche in the Mulan remake. Like, okay, you want to see what a modern live-action avalanche is going to look like?
I gotta tell you, I don't know what to expect of this Mulan movie. Is it officially in the works yet, or are they just like announcing?
Yeah, it's officially in the works. Yeah,
I just forgot about that. Actually, we had a really good casting on Mulan and Once Upon a Time. We have Jamie Chung. You remember Jamie Chung?
I know Jamie Chung. Yeah.
Yeah, she played Mulan in that. She actually put a really good one for the movie. But I'm looking forward to the avalanche scene in Mulan, to be honest. But anyway, getting off topic. That you brought up, like, yeah, it's gonna be so cool.
Right.
And her riding through the avalanche with the horse. Oh my god, it's gonna be That's gonna be sweet. But let's just make it clear: all these.
This is what we're talking about when we're talking about cons and War of the Planet of the Apes, folks.
But seriously,
fanboying over Milan. That's what it comes to.
But seriously, with the cons, though, again, all these cons that we've laid out there, again, the very few that we've laid out there, again, they do not take away from this movie one iota. I want to make it clear.
And can I just make this a compliment sandwich and just round things up with another pro?
All right.
I really, really love the visual motifs that we get in this movie, like the the helmets that they all wear with the different things written on them. All the graffiti in the tunnel and shit like that. Like
and the world building, it's great.
All right. So yeah, like I said, folks, like nary a con in sight with this one, really. Okay, so I guess favorite moments then, Dragon. I guess I'll start because mine first one I have is right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so Dragon, as you alluded to, I think the prologue in this movie is absolutely genius.
Yeah.
How we have like the one paragraph of text per movie.
It's like 3 lines.
With the bolded. Yeah, you're right. It's not even like a paragraph.
It's 3 lines and the title is in red.
Yeah, the title's in red. Like there was a rise that led to the dawn, and now a war is happening. Oh, that was so cool.
Yes, and again, it's all you need. That's all the recap you need. I know it sounds so simple, but it's just so cool.
Mm-hmm. No, I know. I was right there. I'm right there with you, man. I was really drawn into it. So yeah, I love the opening sequence just because A, for that alone, B, I love the first shot, Dragon. The first shot, of course, I think the first shot in both of these, in both Dawn and War,
Dawn had a really solid opening.
With like Caesar raising his arm and stuff like that, and like all the apes like running at the camera. Yeah. This one, it's like we basically kind of like, this is like one of the few times in the movie where we're sort of from the humans' point of view. You know what I mean? Like we're with the humans, like we kind of established the donkeys and everything. And we're kind of like seeing the apes sort of like in the trees, and that kind of builds the apes up as this sort of like scary force. You know what I mean? And I like that about the opening of this movie because it really does kind of get you into the headspace of the humans at the same time. Like, yeah, from the humans' point of view, they're just trying to survive, and this whole mission, it's like they're just kind of like, fuck these apes, it's like, and just sort of like that big kind of scary contrast. I love how, like I said, we get drawn into sort of like feeling the fear of the humans in this big battle in the opening. And then the movie almost kind of immediately switches focus to Caesar. And then once we're on Caesar, the whole movie is sort of like the apes. And then we don't get that human avatar or anything. So I just think that the opening sequence is just a kind of like really cool sort of reversal of expectations in a lot of ways. Like I said, I love the slow pan. I love all the details on the helmets and everything, and the reveal of the donkeys and kind of the apes hiding out in the trees. And then once the action does start, it's very ferocious, very intense. And it's just kind of like a big, it's very smart to kind of like bookend the movie with these 2 big action scenes, I think, because it allows you to get the release of a big action scene out right off the bat without kind of like the stress of like building up the momentum. You know what I mean? Like the momentum is already set right from the very beginning. Okay, and then my second moment, Dragon, it's very quick, but I honestly think this might be my favorite moment in the whole movie. I mean, you want to talk about a Batman scene right here, Dragon. You want to talk about a Batman scene. This is Caesar's alleyway scene, where, of course, I love the visual cue, too, of the, we see the apes asleep behind the waterfall, right? And then we see, like the silhouettes of the humans, like, going down from the ropes. It's, like, this whole sequence is just masterfully done.
The green light, kind of the camouflage, kind of make him look ape-like in the sun.
Right. And then, of course, in the midst of the humans attacking the apes, Caesar, all he cares about is his wife and child, and he's running, and he's going to them, and then it's too late. And he gets there, they're already dead. Of course, young Cornelius is still alive, but his oldest son and his wife are dead.
Yeah, and we telegraphed, Blue Eye's death because he got up and basically we saw like a soldier had him in his sights and like, oh, we knew it was over.
And then Harrelson comes out of the waterfall, and he is just bathed in this, like I said, Dragon, this almost kind of like Joker-esque war paint. You know what I mean? Where he looks manic. You know what I mean? He looks inhuman.
Like Bruce Wayne looking into Joe Chill's eyes right there.
Right. And I love the score in this moment, Dragon. The score, just like the drums get like super intense. And, and as you said, just Caesar looking into his eyes, like that's everything you need to know about the Colonel character, established in one visual shot. I don't know, Dragon. Just the fact that it's just the look of the Colonel and the way that he comes out of the waterfall and the way that he looks at Caesar. It's like he doesn't need to speak a damn word of dialogue. It's like we know what this guy is all about just based on that image. And to me, that's a powerful part of this movie. Is just I feel like you could do so much with visuals nowadays in movies that it's almost kind of lost on us just how much a powerful singular image can do. And I feel like that image of Harrelson coming out of the waterfall is one of those like powerful singular images that really speaks to me. All right, and the third and final moment, I mean, there's great moments like throughout this movie, but the third and final moment for me is the introduction to Bad Ape, because like I said, this is a great sort of there's a lot of genuine suspense in the scene, I feel like, because of course they're chasing this thing. We don't exactly know what it is. As you said, it's wearing the jacket, so we don't know if it's human or what. And of course, when we see the Bad Ape, first of all, it's a big moment just because you're just like, wait, what? This thing can speak English too? It immediately sort of like opens up the story potential. And I don't know, I just really like how throughout the scene, we get everything we need to know about this character. We get that, we get the backstory with him at the zoo. Basically, he's kind of like a parrot, you know what I mean? He sort of just through all the observations at the zoo, he sort of just learned to mimic human speech.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And
which is clever, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I thought that was like a really interesting idea, and just the fact that this guy's almost got like post-traumatic stress and everything like that. And I love his hideout too. I love how his hideout is sort of like this this abandoned building that's sort of been like caved in by the ice and everything like that. It's like frozen over. It's a really cool like atmospheric sort of setting. And I realize that I'm not having a lot to say about this moment, so I'll just, I guess another favorite moment of mine, Dragon, is just as we were already kind of talking about with Red, just, I just love the setup and payoff of that character, through the whole movie. He's getting abused, he doesn't really want to be in that position, but he doesn't really have a choice. And you want to see him revolt, but you also know that if he does revolt, he's as good as dead. And you want to see it happen anyways. And when it does happen and he does immediately get shot upon saving Caesar, it's a powerful moment in the midst of this sort of epic battle at the end of the movie. You know what I mean? It's a very personal moment in the middle of everything. So, all right. So, yeah, those are, like I said, I kind of cheated and threw in a fourth one. But I think I was kind of like, you were kind of right about like the whole like, yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, well, one other thing with Red, just point, because I just want to make sure I get in. There's that the cool thing with Red and the Apes is in the donkeys is that they were Koba. They sided with Koba, and they also had no place to go. The majority of them. Anyone who questions his leadership, they went with Koba during the revolt of the sequel, and then with no place to go, they sided with the humans. So again, there are also a little bit of there's shades of Koba in there with the donkeys, which is kind of like another layer to add to Caesar's guilt in a way.
Right.
Okay, for me, my three moments. Let's see. I love one of my absolute favorite scenes. Basically, when I was thinking about moments like this one, I was just geeking out so much about Caesar and the Colonel. I was just like, yeah, this scene's really great. Yeah, like this has to be there. Caesar meeting not again. You had the first glimpse of the guy. It was like the first time he officially, is in the same scene with the Colonel. It's the scene where he actually gets to have a meet and greet with the colonel, kind of like the interrogation scene, if you will.
It is very much this movie's equivalent to the interrogation scene.
Again, Caesar, he's led to the room, and I could watch it all day, just like that
Right,
posture on that
right.
ape, guys. I'm telling you, I don't know what it is, but he looks so good when he does that. But anyway, oh my god, this scene is electric here. It's like this is the big, and this is the Oscar, like, for your consideration scene for both of them almost. It's really that good. It's Caesar and the colonel having their real kind of ideological discussion in a way, because in this scene what we get across is that, you know, it's like the colonel's very casual. He has like tea in the scene, like he's drinking something.
Oh God!
Don't
even. Okay.
But you know, he's drinking something. Like, he's very casual. He's just kind of in the scene. Well, he's kind of gauging. He's studying Caesar in this moment. So, like, if the legends are true, like, seeing why Caesar. He knows Caesar's the leader of the apes, and he attacked his compound. And he sees, like, oh man, you're very intelligent. You're speaking again, like, and seeing how kind of soft spoken, not soft spoken, but kind of how smart Caesar is, and just seeing how kind of like conscientious of his people he is, versus how he's far more conscientious of his soldiers than the colonel is of his, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he respects the colonel on some level. The colonel respects Caesar on some level. You know, and he's a leader in times of war, a guy who's going to make the hard choices, versus a leader who's hoping for peace, like Caesar is. This guy who's like far gone from peace. And it's like Caesar absolutely could become the colonel or Koba if he keeps chasing down this revenge path. And what I love in the scene is that the colonel critiques Caesar. And I love that the colonel's right in that he critiques Caesar on the lesson that, you know, if you, again, we has that great moment, like, so emotional, because again, Caesar almost kills him when he mentions, you know, if I had to make the choice, you know, to kill your family, I'd do it all over again.
Mm.
You know, Caesar freaking out. He's almost killing him. Like, so emotional, and he points it out there that you can't be emotional in war. That's war. If you put your loss and your vendetta before your men, you know, that's not a way to win a war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a fascinating dynamic. It really is, and I love the parallel between the loss of his son. Again, a guy who's just so far down the rabbit hole. Guy who, again, it's very kind of X-Men mutant hater type thing here, where the principle of losing humanity and becoming something else, becoming something non-human, that non-humanity becoming top of the food chain, driving you to such a psychotic moral place of you're going to kill your infant child so they don't grow up being something less than what we hold the standard of human to be. And again, him having to live with that choice. And that's what's driving him crazy. The psychological stress of doing that has driven him to just this slippery slope of like, well, if I killed my own child, then there's no hold bar. There's a no hold bar. I'm gonna someone has a nosebleed, even if it's not related to like losing the speech. They're dead. They're a goner.
Sure.
You know, it's just so. And again, just the idea that kind of seals his fate. Getting into my next moment here. So again, just that whole scene between it's an electric scene. Again, Caesar kind of like laying out where they kind of come down on the lines here. Just really, it's a fantastic scene. I could go on about it all day. I'm gonna move on. Payoff of that scene. I love it's in the same sets, in the same location, the colonel's bunk, you know, where he's sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
It's Caesar's moment of change. It's when Caesar has the opportunity to exact his revenge, and he chooses not to, because the colonel, so poetically right, the colonel contracts the simian flu from the doll that he found in Caesar's cell when Nova came to visit him, which is also a runner-up for one of my moments, when Nova visits Caesar, because actually, it's kind of I'll bridge my scenes here a little bit. There's a mini moment here where Caesar is kind of contemplating. Basically, he's contemplating if the colonel's right in a way. And again, Nova, who again is infected with the simian flu, and she helps Caesar out, and that kind of shows that again humanity can live on and live in harmony with apes versus, you know, what he's laying out there. And again, in helping Caesar, she drops that doll which contracts the simian flu to the colonel when he picks it up. So again, nice little kind of sandwich there of moments where but again, it's that moment where the colonel is so poetically and so justly he now has a simian flu, and like he's looking at Caesar, he knows Caesar wants to kill him for killing his family, and Caesar grabs the gun first, and he's clicking it at him. It's such a powerful moment. He could kill his, you know, the man who murdered his family, and he hesitates, and then he sees the colonel desperately wants to die, not because he's in pain, but because he can't stand he killed. I'm sorry, I'm just losing my mind. How cool this moment is. It's just that idea that again, the man killed his own child over becoming this, and he's in such a state he can't do because his brain function won't allow him, like, you know, without help, he won't be able to pull that trigger. I mean, he has to kind of put it in his own hand almost.
Mm.
It's just the idea, like he's begging, like, make us both happy, kill me, and he doesn't. And again, Caesar won't kill him again because he does not want to fall down that revenge path, and also he doesn't want to give the colonel what he wants, and the colonel,
keeping him alive is a much more fitting punishment. Yeah,
it's like live with what you condemned your son to.
Exactly.
It's like you're gonna live with what your son had, but I'm not gonna get you. I'm not gonna kill you. I'm not gonna reunite you with your son in a way. It's like, oh, it's so sadistic and it's awesome. Right. And then of course off screen, like the colonel, like bang, and it's like, oh my god, such a fantastic closure to the colonel's arc, man.
Oh yeah. Good
okay,
stuff.
let's say briefly, Caesar's death, of course, that's a biggie. So lastly, in Caesar's death, I did not see it coming, but it kind of dawned on me that, in this world, I mean, we saw what Caesar had to go through to survive getting shot in Dawn, but in a world without humans, you're going to have to live with the consequence of that, and in a world with dwindling humans, basically no human-ape relations going on here. Caesar gets shot with an arrow by, again, our pseudo-human avatar, who, again, this is not on Caesar's side.
Right.
He shoots him with a crossbow or an arrow or something. And logically, again, the apes don't have healthcare. I'm afraid apes seriously, apes have no way of healing themselves. If they get shot like in the arm or anything, if they get shot anywhere, they're a goner because they can't heal that. That wound's going to get infected or something bad is going to happen. Again, they're going to bleed out. They're dead. Caesar, he led the charge. I love that he got to the promised land.
Yeah, it's sort of like it's leading it's kind of like a Moses story.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like biblical and it's very legendary.
Oh yeah.
I love the fact he has his last scene is with Maurice.
Oh
Maurice
god, the last moments in this film are just perfect. I think
Bruce Wayne dying in Alfred's arms.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just put Caesar being so happy, just like like his last line essentially being, apes will be fine without him. He actually echoes the big line of the movie. Apes are strong.
Yes.
They'll be fine. Essentially, they'll be fine without me. And just again, Maurice being so saddened by this, but again, just the fact that Caesar, he doesn't get the bask in his land, but he does get he gets to take solace in the fact that I completed my mission. I did what was right for my people. I got them there, and it's just the war. I soldiered them through war, and then he dies. It's a poetic way of, if you're going to kill Caesar, that's the way to kill Caesar.
Mm. Okay, Dragon, we're I don't know. I'm kind of just with the other podcast we want to do tonight. Let's just go just a tiny bit on the future of the franchise. Just kind of like a couple minutes on it.
All right.
Obviously, I think the logical place to go with this would be to have Andy Serkis play a grown Cornelius.
Yeah, I'm hoping for that too. Yeah. It would make sense.
Let me ask you this: do you think there should be any more movies in between this and the Planet of the Apes proper, or do you think the next movie should basically be a remake of the original?
Well, let's see. Again, I'm down for a remake if Reeves is attached. If Reeves is attached, I'm down for we do Planet of the Apes. Where again, they could just end it here if they really wanted to, and it'd be enough. But
honestly, I think they maybe should end it here from an artistic point of view.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if they can't get Reeves back, they shouldn't do another one. The only way I would buy, I could buy remaking, basically linking up with the original film, like Taylor landing on the planet, basically doing that.
Or maybe even have a trilogy that ends with a remake of the original film. I could see that. Have it kind of start in the same sort of status quo that we have in the original movies and sort of build up to Taylor.
That's not a bad idea.
Uh-huh.
So I've been getting to the status quo than the last movie being the Taylor story. That's not a bad idea. And but I say a lot of that predicate on if we can get Reeves on. If we can't get Reeves on, I don't trust them doing that.
Okay.
I'm just saying that I would love to see what Reeves could do with that. And again, it would be kind of a better reinvention than we got with the Burton version.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that we're going to see a grown Nova in sort of the same Nova role as the originals?
Well, again, if I'm remembering correctly, I want to say, and I could be wrong, because bear in mind, it's been a long time since I've seen only the original movie. And I get the gist of the original films, but Nova, she has a relationship with Taylor in that, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does.
So obviously, I think the relationship's definitely going to be changed because I think Taylor's going to be a grown man. She'll be like a teenager by the time he enters the fray. So I don't think it's going to be like a relationship.
I mean, I honestly think they could flash forward a good 20 years until Taylor comes back.
Honestly, I don't know. I think that would just be maybe like kind of a new reinvention. But if Taylor didn't have like a romantic relationship with Nova, but I'm throwing it out there. But
Sure.
Let's see, but TM, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought up the whole thing about Cornelius. Basically, kind of doing what the McDowell tradition, where Roddy McDowell.
Exactly.
That's absolutely what I'd love to see, and that's a way you can kind of kill off Caesar and still kind of keep him around, and with Cornelius, which would be fantastic. So let me throw it. Basically, two ways this could go. I'm going to pitch you this. It's very simply, assuming we next movie 4 is the Taylor story. Let's just assume.
Mm-hmm.
We do that. Here's what I'm thinking for Taylor. I have a few actors for Taylor. Basically, I think with Taylor, you have to match up to kind of the Charles Heston of our time, kind of like a really good actor, kind of an iconic good actor for our time, to play kind of the astronaut kind of landing on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And again, basically, in terms of like what the story would be, kind of very much kind of like Bates Motel season 5, and now we're linking up with everything. Of course, it's kind of what the movie would be. Obviously, my go-to is Cranston as Taylor. That's
no, I'm picturing.
I have a few options. I'm just throwing it out there as my typical kind of go-to. And again, he is
a little younger than Cranston.
I'm just throwing it out there again. I could buy him as like the Heston of our times for this. I could buy it. Again, he's kind of that caliber of actor we can use for this.
I hate to say this, Dragon, but I'm still waiting for him to get a post-Breaking Bad role that's like really, really good.
That's what I'm saying, right?
I keep waiting for it, though, and I'm worried that it's not going to happen.
Again, I think it's an iconic role. Cranston can take over and make his own.
Anyways.
Okay, let's see. So Cranston, if not Cranston, there are two other actors I think of. Liam Neeson might be another one.
I could see Liam Neeson, yeah.
And if not Liam Neeson, I have a younger one here, Chris Evans.
I could kind of see Chris Evans. Yeah, that's actually a really good pick. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, for sure.
And again, I would, if it were me, I'd change the Nova relationship to just kind of be more like, it's kind of like almost like a Wolverine Jubilee thing. But, it's like kind of the older one and the younger, like kind of mentoring the girl, kind of maybe like some of the perennial thing. But I mean, again, like,
and to be fair, I don't think the first one was like a straight up like romance or anything, because remember, she was a feral human, so it was more kind of like Taylor showing her humanity. You know what I mean?
Sure,
more than it was like a straight up romance.
It's just me trying to remember what the originals were, folks. If I'm getting that wrong,
and I haven't seen the original since grade school either, so
this is what I vaguely remember. Again, it's like Taylor reaching out. I might be thinking more like the Nostalgia Review, the Tim Burton one on that one. If I'm thinking of any relationship,
and the Tim Burton one was definitely sexualized for sure.
That's what I'm saying. So I might be thinking of that by accident. So I apologize for that. But let's see. Well, here's the thing: is you always got to remember whatever they do, Tiki. With let's say if the next one is Taylor, I mean they could always go years in the future, which you imagine they do. But regardless, whatever they do, they're already at least 13, 15 years in the hole.
No, you're right.
Taylor's been in space for at least. Again, he's definitely been in space for 10 years, possibly, again, 15.
No, I don't want to dwell on it, Dragon. You're right. It probably would be better to go in the direction you're saying. Yeah.
Last thing I have, and this is brilliant. Let's just say if we went the other direction you laid out, Tiki, just like, I'm not going to go through like all the movies. Let's say what 4 would be.
Okay.
If it's like building us to like kind of that ultimate Taylor story, what I do is kind of bridge the gap, like kind of building the society would be Cornelius meeting Zira. I do Zira for a movie. Yeah,
that's a good idea for sure.
Apes
I would also maybe call the 4th one Society of the Planet of the Apes.
Ooh, that's good. I like that. Like for me, like, honestly, what I'd imagine like I like your trilogy. I didn't consider that, but in my planning, I'd probably do like kind of 4 is kind of like a Rogue One like prequel vibe to it. Like we would build to like kind of Taylor landing at the end. That would be kind of
I mean, we could do that. We could do like much like kind of how Nolan's trilogy, like the second one was kind of like the iconic one, right?
Yeah.
And then I could imagine the third one sort of like, being
that's when we get into the sequel territory of the future,
And it's when we kind of get into like the whole, like the ruined New York and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like we could have Zaius more. We could do kind of Zaius Maurice is kind of like Maurice is like he's holding a grudge for Caesar getting killed, and like he and Rock could usher in kind of the apes holding a grudge against humanity going forward.
I gotta say, if Maurice became the main villain of this franchise, that'd be fascinating.
That's what I'm saying. What if Caesar's guys, because they lost their leader, they kind of held a grudge against humanity, and basically when they were on top of the food chain, they took it out on the humans.
Mm-hmm.
And Cornelius was like going along with it, but again, like kind of the Cornelius story, he's going along with it, but he has reservations based on kind of the lineage of his father.
Sure.
So you know,
Good stuff.
that's what I got. Oh, and Judy Greer is Zero Or. Because Judy Greer was she was one of the motion captures on the Apes early in the movie. Again, kind of reusing her. But for me, if I could pick anyone, Vera Farmiga, Zero. If I could, I'm just saying. If again, one of my go-tos, Cranston Farmiga. It's always Cranston Farmiga is my go-to. So I
mean, anything's going to be better than Helena Bonham Carter.
Oh, certainly, exactly. I mean, seriously, just like kind of the gentle Zero being Vera Farmiga. Couldn't you picture it?
Oh God, yes, I could. Yes, I could.
Okay.
All right, final thoughts, Dragon. Go ahead.
Final thoughts. I marvel at the filmmaking on this. It's got a lot of great Batman potential with the tone, the internalization on Caesar. It definitely has a Apocalypse Now. It's like it's Apocalypse Now done right and coherently.
Well, I mean, Kong Skull Island.
Well, I'm sorry, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't speak to that.
No, Kong Skull Island's another one like that. Like, this is like my number one of the year, and Kong Skull Island is like right outside of my top 10. So this is better than Kong Skull Island, but let's not take away from Kong Skull Island.
I didn't mean to take. I'm just saying, like, from what I've seen. But yeah, sure.
No, Kong Skull Island is a really solid movie. It's just not a masterpiece like this one is.
I take your word. I'd like to see it. I just gotta wait for it.
Yeah,
Again, like going to Planet Apes, I gotta wait for it. So there are no real faults in this. It's probably my favorite of the ape films. Period. Honestly, I really like it.
Oh yeah, same here. Same here. Yeah.
So it's really good. Okay.
And yeah, folks. I mean, like I said, I went in like really like I was expecting this movie to be really good. I was not expecting it to be. Dragon, it's funny.
It exceeded our expectations. It did.
I've had this period of like it's just been a fantastic like month or so of movies because like I mean keep in mind some of these movies you haven't seen like stuff like Beatrice at Dinner, which is another fantastic John Lithgow performance, and then Sofia Coppola's new movie with Colin Farrell, The Beguiled. Both of those movies were so good for me that they were on the top of my movie rankings list.
Colin Farrell, Mr. Banks himself.
And then this movie comes out, and it's like, well, here's another number one. And Jacob Gulliver, Dragon, he actually kind of, chastised me, like playfully chastised me a little bit on Facebook. He's like, dude, it seems like your number one's like changing every other week. Like, are you sure it's not just recency bias? So I'm like, yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit, Jacob. You kind of got me there.
Yeah, remember when Logan was your number one?
I mean, Logan's still in my top 5. Yeah, for like Logan's up there, definitely.
You could say the reason it's fun because like all these different number ones you keep piling up over it.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
They're all good. I'll take it where they're all
good. Look,
at
this point, I would probably say the top 3 movies, like the top 4 movies of the year for me.
Bear in mind, folks, this might be dated if you watch this at a later date. Go on.
Yes. Right now, the top 4 movies of the year for me are this, Dunkirk, which are 2 movies that came out within the same time of each other, and then Logan and Get Out, another 2 movies that came out very close to each other. So, yeah, those 2, those 4, I should say. So, yeah, I mean, as I said, I think it stands on its own really, really well, I think, because I've only seen Dawn once, and in Rises, I've only seen once, and I don't really feel like you definitely get a fuller picture of Caesar's storyline with those other 2 movies, but I feel like this movie works as a standalone story incredibly well. I think maybe even better than the other 2 do in terms of just telling standalone stories. And yeah, I just think the storytelling in this is fantastic. It's just this whole series is just a game changer when it comes to visual effects. Andy Serkis better be, if not nominated, they better just give him some sort of special Oscar or something. I don't know.
They could do that. They could you give him one not a lifetime achievement. They give him like an achievement Oscar, or like kind of like what John Lasseter got with Toy Story being the first.
Exactly.
So it could be like the first Oscar for for motion capture performance, maybe.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, all the elements just came together really well. We have a captivating hero. We have a menacing, really, really interesting villain. Giacchino's score is like Giacchino just keeps upping himself, I think, with these scores, man. Like this was just like the primal drums, just you really got into it. Like this movie just set such a beat. Of course, Bad Ape, just everything about this movie is just so good. I'm going to quit rambling and just say, yeah, for me at least, just the best cinematic experience I've had all year, hands down. All right, and that's it, folks. Thank you for joining us, and we will be uploading a spoiler cast of Dunkirk immediately after this. So we're going to kind of see like how Christopher Nolan handles a more sort of like, you know, sort of action-orientated movie.
Let me pose this question to you. War, what is it good for?
Being the end theme song to Rush Hour movies.
Of course.
All right. Have a good day, folks.